Folks, Afghanistan is now waking up to a new reality. The U.S. military has withdrawn all of its troops, ending America's longest war. Nearly 2,500 Americans died during that particular war, spanning 4 presidencies. Also today, President Joe Biden spoke with regards to the pullout. You've had people who are still questioning that, saying that why did of course, the United States pull out, that he could have rescinded the decision or altered the decision of Donald Trump. But President Biden made it perfectly clear that was not the case. And he also made it clear that this was the right decision for America to get out of this war, for him to actually end this particular war. And so you still have those particular critics. Here's some of what he had to say today.
And is now over. I'm the 4th president who has faced the issue of whether and when to end this war. When I was running for president, I made a increase in the risk to U.S. personnel and our allies. As a result, to safely extract American citizens before August 31st, as well as embassy personnel, allies and partners, and those Afghans who had worked with us and fought alongside of us for 20 years, I had authorized 6,000 troops, American troops, to Kabul to help secure the airport. As General McKenzie said, this is the way the mission was designed. It was designed to operate under severe stress and attack, and that's what it did. Since March, we reached out 19 times to Americans in Afghanistan with multiple warnings and offers to help them leave Afghanistan, all the way back as far as March. After we started the evacuation 17 days ago, we did initial outreach and analysis and identified around 5,000 Americans who had decided earlier to stay in Afghanistan, but now wanted to leave. Our Operation Allied Rescue ended up getting more than 5,500 Americans out. We got out thousands of citizens and diplomats from those countries that went into Afghanistan with us to get bin Laden. We got out locally employed staff of the United States Embassy and their families, totaling roughly 2,500 people. We got thousands of Afghan translators and interpreters and others who supported the United States out as well. Now we believe that about 100 to 200 Americans remain in Afghanistan with some intention to leave. Most of those who remain are dual citizens, long-time residents who had earlier decided to stay because of their family roots in Afghanistan. The bottom line, 90% of Americans in Afghanistan who wanted to leave were able to leave. And for those remaining Americans, there is no deadline. We remain committed to get them out if they want to come out. Secretary of State Blinken is leading the continued diplomatic efforts to ensure safe passage for any American, Afghan partner, or foreign national who wants to leave Afghanistan. In fact, just yesterday, the United Nations Security Council passed a resolution that sent a clear message about the international community expects the Taliban to deliver on moving forward, notably freedom of travel, freedom to leave. And together, we are joined by over 100 countries that are determined to make sure the Taliban upholds those commitments. It will include ongoing efforts in Afghanistan to reopen the airport, as well as overland routes, allowing for continued departure to those who want to leave and deliver humanitarian assistance to the people of Afghanistan. The Taliban has made public commitments, broadcast on television and radio across Afghanistan, on safe passage for anyone wanting to leave, including those who worked alongside Americans. We don't take them by their word alone, but by their actions. And we have leverage to make sure those commitments are met. Let me be clear. Leaving August the 31st is not due to an arbitrary deadline. It was designed to save American lives.
Joining us right now is counterterrorism expert Malcolm Nance. He's the author of several books, including The Plot to Betray America, How Team Trump Embraced Our Enemies, Compromised Our Security, and How We Can Fix It. The reality is this here, Malcolm. President Joe Biden had the guts to do what his predecessors did not, and that is end this war. Nearly 2,500 troops. I've seen estimates ranging from $2 trillion to $20 trillion spent in Afghanistan. The initial focus was achieved, taking out Osama bin Laden and also reducing the capacity of al-Qaeda there. And so when you see these war hawks who continue to yell, oh, we should stay, we should reinvade Afghanistan, did they not learn?
Well, to be honest, it's almost as if the last 20 years did not happen. And that many of these people, and journalists included, who gave like totals of 14 and 15 complete minutes of war coverage in the last, 10 years, just don't believe that this story should end. So we have these people who want to carry out retaliatory attacks for a suicide bombing attack, or to continue our presence in Afghanistan, which would bleed us even further in manpower. It would bleed us economically. It would take our eye off the ball of restoring America as a great nation state. And there were some strides made in Afghanistan. We have to give credit that over the last 20 years, we did allow the education of women. We did allow a more expanded press in the country. But the very fact that Donald Trump carried out a secret deal with the Taliban and negotiated a peace treaty behind the backs of the government of Afghanistan and signed that peace treaty on 26 February 2020, it became clear to every person in Afghanistan that the United States had cut a deal with the Taliban, and the Taliban were going to come in eventually as the leadership and the rulers of that country.
So explain this. So Malcolm, explain this. So you have people say, oh, I love these Republicans who say, well, Biden didn't have to abide by that agreement. He could have junked it.
Yeah, he could have junked that agreement. And what you would have had was open warfare with only 2,500 troops in the United States in that country. One of the biggest problems that we had was what we call green on blue violence, which were Afghans who were Taliban who were infiltrated into the government or who had a private gripe with certain American trainers and would just come up, take their weapons and kill them. I mean, we could have lost numerous people had the fighting season started again. The Taliban had been left unchecked. They had been, this treaty was supposed to be conditional. Donald Trump adhered to none of the conditions. Look, Joe Biden saw the writing on the wall, and he could have adhered to the treaty, which said the United States was supposed to leave on May 1st. Donald Trump himself in his last weeks tried to get his acting Secretary of Defense to remove every U.S. soldier before January 1st of this year and abandon all U.S. equipment in the country. Not the stuff that belonged to the Taliban, the stuff that belonged to us. So Joe Biden extended that, sat down with the Joint Chiefs, and came up with a plan. What he didn't have a plan for was the fact that for over a year, all of the tribal chiefs, the provincial governors, members of the Afghan government had already seen the writing on the wall and were cutting secret deals with the Taliban and essentially handed the keys to them when one guy on a scooter showed up.
And wasn't this, look, the way I see this is very simple. Biden goes, I'm going to take the hit. Yep. Biden could have easily done what Obama did. He could have easily done what Bush did. That is, oh, no. Just keep it going. Keep it going. Keep it going. Where he said, no. I'm going to take the hit, and I'm going to I think the American people are going to side with me. So while you got Fox News and OAN and Newsmax and all these people, and yeah, certain people on CNN and MSNBC saying that this was loud, this was awful. I mean, I remember seeing one person saying, there's no way we can get 50,000 people airlifted out of the country before the August 31st deadline. We did.
Yeah,
we
did that when it was at around 35,000. And I think it was Eric Bollard who said, what happens if we're a success? And he picked the arbitrary number of 100,000. And we eclipsed that. We blew past 100,000 very, very quickly. The one thing that the United States is competent in is executing a plan. The problem is that the news media, who, by the way, many of them were very beholden to their, 1 or 2 time experiences in Afghanistan, living the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot life. And if you haven't seen that movie, I'm going to prescribe this to all your followers. If you want to see why they went after Joe Biden, watch the Tina Fey movie, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, which is about the wild life of journalists living in Afghanistan. It's sort of like an adult amusement park with liquor, right? Where they live in these luxurious villas. They all have private security guards, drive around in armored vehicles to get that perfect shot or to get that interview, and people die all around them. Many of these journalists are regretting now that they don't have that. That life is going away. The people that they met, the experiences that they have. Unfortunately, they do not believe that the Afghan people technically chose this. And I have some news for many of your listeners. Afghanistan has 38 million people. Only 5 million are in Kabul, which means the other 33 million who are relatively rural or living in the smaller cities, they cut these deals with the Taliban, and they turned over the keys to the country, and now they have the peace that they want.
And before I go to questions from my panel, this is what I keep saying, and it's hard for some of these people to understand. It's their country. It's their country. And I absolutely understand the concern about women, about girls, about freedom. The Taliban has already made it clear that they're going to lead by a rigid Islamic rule. But let's be real clear. That's Saudi Arabia.
Right.
Look at how the dictator in Turkey, how he's leading. Myanmar. I mean, we can go Philippines. We can go a whole lot of places in the world where America is aligned with folks who do not believe in democracy, do not believe in human rights. Hell, China. I mean, we can go on and on and on. And so this idea that we are going to tell somebody what the hell to do in their country, but then we the same folks, hell, who don't even want Americans telling each other what to do in this country. Come on, right. That's a farce.
Yeah, and Afghanistan is a patriarchal, misogynistic, tribal society, okay? And 90% of that population lives rurally. Very funny, the right wing criticized me for saying that many of them are goat herders. Most of them are goat herders. I mean, this is a rural society that is agrarian. They live on basic subsistence. But you know what their key subsistence is? Islam, as they want to practice it. Islam, as they see it. They are conservative. They are fundamentalist, right? But what they want is they want their cultural norms to be adhered to without a 2,000-pound laser-guided bomb dropping on their head, accidentally wiping out their village or destroying a wedding party with an AC-130 gunship. It's regrettable. But those deaths were principally because we decided that, we would work towards the goals we established, which were not particularly compatible with the average person in Afghanistan. So they spent this last year choosing who they wanted to rule.
Questions from my panel. Mustafa Sadiq Ali, your question for Malcolm Nance.
Malcolm, it's good to see you. Yeah, I was blessed that both my family and friends made it back home safely after fighting in Afghanistan. I'm curious, what are 1 or 2 of the lessons that you think we should take away from the engagement there?
So, I'm an old spy, so I have some very specific things that just drove me absolutely crazy because I speak Arabic. And when I went there the first time in 2002, the reason that I got through to so many of the walis, right, the senior male leader of the village, tribe, or family, is because I could pray in Arabic. I could speak Islam. Yeah, I mean, I could speak Arabic to them. I could read the Quran in Arabic. I could sing nasheeds in Arabic, which they view as the pure language of the Quran, or the pure language of the Prophet. So it opened immense numbers of doors. The very fact that we have to evacuate tens of thousands of translators shows that for 20 years of war, our people didn't even learn their language. So we have a very soft bigotry of culture. We do not care about the cultures we go into. We want to bring our culture on top of it. You know, we want to teach kids not just to eat chocolate bars, but to drink Rip It, concentrated caffeine drinks and things like that, and create this expectation that they will become a mini United States. Many of the neoconservatives and the politicians who invaded Afghanistan and Iraq, especially Iraq, thought they were going to recreate Germany or South Korea there. It takes 5 minutes on the ground to realize you're never getting there. This is not a place where a Marshall Plan could build them up economically and you could change their culture into being, freedom-loving, small d Democrats. These people live tribally. They defeated Genghis Khan and Alexander the Great and the British twice and the Soviet Union with their interfamilial tribalism. So instead of bringing that and investigating the human factors to determine why we were considered bad, laser-guided bombs, and why the Taliban were considered acceptable, Muslims working towards a cause they could understand, well, then we essentially just fought that war 20 times over. And the worst part is no one read a book about Vietnam, which was the exact same thing.
Brianna, your question for Malcolm Nance.
Yes, thank you so much for having this conversation. It's very vital with our world expanding. And you've touched on great points. I don't remember Donald Trump flying one Kurd to safety. He let Turkey slaughter them, and they were our allies. They served with our troops, and there was no outrage from that. But Biden has safely evacuated more than 100,000 Afghans at this point. And I'm saying, let's take score. As it stated, Trump had a year to get the civilians and allies and diplomats out of there, but not one peep. He did it, for the Nobel Peace Prize, wasn't serious, and now Biden comes in and takes control of it. And, while we work to end our presence safely, we can't abandon the women and children of Afghanistan. But frankly, I know we can't keep asking our service members to go in alone anymore. And so it's time for the world to generally invest in the United Nations to develop a robust and consensus-building institution, one that's truly capable of handling severe humanitarian challenges like Afghanistan and Haiti as well, of what's going on over there. And so as we keep a close eye on how these crises unfold, what are some policies or suggestions that you think could come from the White House and really playing a role stronger into the United Nations when focusing on this?
I'm glad you said that. I've worked with the United Nations in some pretty obscure parts of the world. Sometimes they knew I was working with them. Sometimes they didn't know that I was working with them. But I always understood their goal, right? Many people like to disparage the United Nations and think, oh, there are a bunch of consensus-building people. We're going to have 500 meetings. There's some organizations that are insanely successful. World Food Program. The World Food Program is like the Special Operations Command. And instead of dropping bombs at their terminal target, they pallet drop food or they bring in bags of food. The World Food Program is insanely successful organization. No one starves when they're around. And they have these incredible digitized databases where everybody gets a little tag on their arm, and they know precisely down to the calorie how much each of you have gotten in food, and they can get that food out there. We should be supporting the WFP, UNICEF, the United Nations Children Education Fund. You know, they're talking about transitioning funds. We just had $6 billion sitting in a kitty right now that was supposed to go to the government, you know, it was supposed to go to the government of Afghanistan. It's not going to go there. That was supposed to help the government, you know, integrate itself more better and computers. Those people stole the money, right? Because they're government bureaucrats. There's not a country in the Middle East, Sub-Saharan Africa, Southwest Asia, or Asia proper itself where the bureaucrats don't steal money and are corrupt. It's just, it's a fact of life. Take that $6 billion, drop $3 billion into UNICEF, drop the other $3 billion into the World Food Program, you know, or UNHCR, United Nations High Commission for Refugees. You know, the Taliban are children of the Afghan refugees who went to Pakistan with when the Soviet Mujahideen war that we were funding was being fought. And so in those camps, they became the Talib, right? The students who were studying fundamentalist Islam, and therefore when they came together as a combat arm, they were the Taliban, those who are students or those who are educated, in Islam. Well, maybe we can moderate some of that with United Nations High Commission for Refugees. Drop $10 billion in their laps, and the UN will work with the countries the Taliban trust. Qatar, Oman, Turkey, and in some respects, Pakistan. And maybe we can maintain these gains for women. Maybe the Taliban don't want to be North Korea of Southwest Asia. Maybe they want to be the Saudi Arabia of Southwest Asia, which means women will put the burqa back on. They will be what we call Mia bil Mia, which is 100%. That's all black, all gloves, all socks. That's what the Saudis are. And they're considered relatively liberal compared to the Taliban. The Saudis themselves will want to have a moderating effect on them and to create this Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. But we have to support the global organizations. And you know, the minute we do this, we execute the Malcolm Plan, the right wing will go crazy about the New World Order because they're crazy. And they hate anything that will benefit people of color on the other side of the world, even if it is the most successful food programs that moderates the Taliban's extremist activities. These people won't care. You and I both know that.
Final question, Cleo Monago from Malcolm Nance.
Greetings, Malcolm. It's good to meet you.
Hey,
before September 2001 at 8:46 a.m., most of us had not heard of the Taliban. They weren't a household word to us. I've been told that they're a terrorist organization. I've also been told that before 9/11, this country, I think it would maybe have been the younger Bush, had invested in the Taliban and given money to the Taliban. And I'm trying to find out from you, my question is this true? Is it true that the United States had collaborative financial, in particular, relationships with the Taliban before 9/11 and did not consider them terrorists then, but they became terrorists in name after 9/11?
Yeah, this is where you have to block out history by decades. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to clarify some of the timeline. From 1980 to 1989, the men that the United States funded from the northern tribes in Afghanistan, and the northern tribes in Afghanistan, and then assisted the government of Saudi Arabia to fund Arabs to come from across the Middle East, the fundamentalist diaspora, and to get fundamentalist Arabs out of their country so that they wouldn't carry out their own jihad. The Saudis chose a representative who was the son of one of the 52 children of the richest man in Saudi Arabia. And that person was named Osama bin Laden. The United States and the CIA were funding another branch of that the Northern Alliance forces and the men from the Peshanjir Valley, Ahmed Shah Massoud. Doesn't matter. Another group that we were supporting because of our resources going to the Saudis was a guy by the name of Ahmed Azam. This was the fundamentalist. Azam was a Palestinian who had studied in Saudi Arabia, close friends with bin Laden. But Azam was really about the entire getting rid of the Soviet Union out of Afghanistan. Those people were all collectively called the Mujahideen, right? The Holy Warriors. When the war ended in 1989, and everybody started to dissipate, the Afghan tribes went back to their areas and created warlords, right? Osama bin Laden and Abdullah Azam got into a fight in Peshawar, Pakistan, in 1989, because Azam said, war's over, everybody go home. Osama bin Laden had in his mind a philosophy that he needed to incite a clash of civilizations between the West and the Arab states in order to defeat them, and then they could take over all the Arab states and create a caliphate. This started in 1989. They killed Abdullah Azam with a car bomb in Peshawar, Pakistan, and then all those Arabs that were under Azam fell under Osama bin Laden and his organization, Al-Qaeda al-Jihad, headquarters of the Holy War. They went to Sudan because the warlords in Afghanistan started fighting. Now, notice I said they went to Sudan. The Taliban were these children living in Pakistan and eastern Afghanistan who were they were Afghans from the Pashtun tribes in the Northwest Frontier Province in eastern Afghanistan. They didn't go with bin Laden. So this is where the Taliban came from. They are the refugee children and fighters from the Holy Warriors. Osama bin Laden branched out specifically to be a terrorist group in order to incite a clash of civilizations between Islam and the West. When the Taliban defeated all the warlords in the 1980s, 1980 all the way up to 2001, right? Or I think it was like, no, not 1980, 1990, 91, 92, all the way up to 2001, they were just creating their own country, the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. But because they revered bin Laden, he was a fighter, he had money, he's a Saudi, they let him come and stay in their country, run their armed forces, and they didn't understand that this man intended to attack the United States mainland directly in order to get the United States to invade Afghanistan. And his incitement was called the September 11th attacks, the holy month attacks. That was 9/11. Bin Laden wanted us to invade Afghanistan so that he could do to us what he did to the Soviet Union, which was break us politically and economically. And arguably, he's done that.
Malcolm Nance, I have not seen you a lot on MSNBC. That's why I called you. I said I need to get your perspective. There are very few black people out here breaking this whole stuff down from a counterterrorism perspective. We certainly appreciate you joining us, folks. One of Malcolm's books, you see it right there, and that is The Plot to Betray America. Folks, be sure to get that. Malcolm, thanks a lot.
Just remember, Roland, black spies matter.
Absolutely. I agree. Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, fam, folks, at Seek.com, virtual reality, of course. You can check out the content at CEEK.com. The company is black-owned, founded by Mary Spio. They've got great content, but also some great products, folks. If you want to check out there, virtual reality headset. Just pop the phone right into here. Watch the content right there at seek.com, or you can look at 360-degree video with this headset. They're pretty cool, actually, when you look at that video. You can sort of look all the way around, all right, y'all. Then, of course, you also have their headsets here, 360-degree headsets, which are phenomenal sound, tremendous bass. You also, of course, Bluetooth. You can talk with these. Also use it for gaming as well. Use the promo code RMVIP21, RMVIP21 to purchase one or the other. You can also subscribe to seek.com for their content, music, sports, all kind of great live stuff. So just go to seek.com, CEEK.com, and check it out.